Hello, hello, good evening, my friends. Good evening, Ireland. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Tina. Welcome.
Good evening, Fernanda.
Good to have you here. This is Teachers Talk starting. Today is Tuesday. We are live from Ireland to all over the world. And today we finally have our first woman. And sadly,
Yay!
yes, Tina, it was just very, very
What an honor.
difficult. Yeah, it is indeed. I was just telling Roy, we really need to bring a woman here to have this conversation and talk about other stuff. And I was expecting to find somebody, and I was so glad that was you, because I know we can have this conversation and we can share and bring light to people. How are you, Tina? Welcome.
Bringing the light. I'm very well, thank you. It's evening time here in Dublin, and it's been a beautiful day, sunny, busy day, very busy day with work, and we had a socially distanced protest today, which was a first and was really good. So yeah, it's been a really good day. How was your day?
My day was busy as usual. I don't see the difference, actually.
Me neither.
I don't see, like, if I am, like if I was working on a daily basis, I just see the same. And I am busy, always busy. So tell me more about this. What happened today?
We had a socially distanced protest because today is, a sort of a solidarity action more than a protest. Today is International Day of Nurses.
Okay.
Celebrating nurses and recognizing their incredible work.
Yeah.
And of course, at the moment in the middle of this health crisis, it has become even more obvious how important their work is, but also how little valued their work is in Ireland. So 1 year ago, nurses were on strike and the government didn't really respect them or appreciate them then.
Yeah.
And now that we're in the middle of this health crisis, I guess people are realizing that they should have had their demands met in the strike. Well, I think people knew that, just that the government didn't. So today we went in the area that I live and work in. We have 3 hospitals. So a group of us, we got some really nice posters made saying pay nurses, give them protective equipment, solidarity with nurses. And we went on a tour of these 3 hospitals. There was about maybe 10 people. And we just stood outside the hospitals with, our signs, each of us standing 2 meters apart and just saying support with nurses and respect for nurses. And it was great because people passing in their cars were all beeping, and it was really good fun. Yeah.
I saw some pictures, I think, on Breeds Meat's page. And yes, this is something very common here in Ireland. People beep, Tina.
Yeah.
Can you explain this? And I would ask you to be sorry telling you this, but because this is time for practicing conversation, Irish accent can be tricky. You know that. So yes, my people just might don't understand anyway. So just
I'm conscious of that. So
thank you.
I think I'm speaking slowly.
Because actually, how many languages do you speak, Tina?
I am trying to speak slowly. But so if people think I'm speaking too fast, they can say it in the comments, or if they want to ask me to repeat something, no problem. Just say it in the comments. And
yes, we have Marcos here. Marcos is from London, I guess, if I'm not too. Please correct me, Marcos. And I guess Marcos also has a YouTube page. So yeah, he's Mathematica English, math and English. So yes, tell us more, because Brazil, we don't have this practice of beeping to a protest, and this is positive, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, some of the signs said, if beep for support or something like that. So yes, this is a nice tradition where people going by will just, whether it's a picket line or a protest or some sort of a solidarity action that, yeah, that's people show their support by beeping their horn. And it's really nice because it gives every time somebody beeps the horn, it gives a lift to the crowd, you know,
Oh yeah.
and everyone gets enthusiastic and it shows also the support. I mean, there was one street outside of the hospital in Ballyfermot, actually, which was quite a busy road, and every car almost that went by was beeping horns.
Lovely.
Yeah, there's a lot of support for nurses, and rightly so. And the government should, you know, pay them properly, recruit more nurses so they don't have to work so hard in such bad conditions, and should give them the protective equipment and the good working conditions that they deserve, like all workers.
Definitely, yes, especially at this moment where they are, of course, they are the first victims of COVID, actually. I was reading something from the UK, and Black women in the front line are the first people to die. So, yeah.
Class and, you know, there's lots going on there. Class, ethnicity, work status.
Yeah. And how...
Gender.
Definitely, yes. How was the like, how would you say, you just mentioned we had social distancing, like how can you manage this? You just
stand apart.
Okay.
Just roughly calculate, and we you know, try to not, you know, I mean, anyway, it's the practice to not go too close to people. No, like no physical contact, and just, you know, washing your hands a lot before you leave the house, washing your hands a lot when you come home.
Definitely.
You know, the same kind of precautions that you would take if you were going to do your food shop, for example. You know, you shouldn't.
And how the Garda react? Is there any problems?
No, we didn't have any problems. At the last hospital, I saw a Garda car parked. The Garda is the Irish police, by the way, for the students.
Thank you.
We didn't. We saw a police car, and I was expecting that maybe they would come over and say something, because there has been workers here, the Debenhams workers, who Debenhams is a big department store, and during the crisis they closed down, and you know, probably using the crisis as a front to kind of lay off all the workers and close the business, and not giving the workers the kind of redundancy payments and the respect that they deserve. So these workers went and had a, you know, socially distanced picket or protest outside of the department store, and the police came and told them that they had to go, that they were you know, that they were in breach of the guidelines around social distancing. But, you know, I think it's probably more to do with the fact that it was a workers' protest rather than a you know, concerns.
Itself,
because they were socially distanced, you know. But we were okay today. We didn't get any.
Good.
Probably because we were, you know, showing solidarity with the nurses as opposed to protesting our working rights.
I have somebody here together with us, Sylvia Santilli. She is in Miami, I guess. She's a great friend. Welcome, Sylvia. I think it's the first time she's here. And Marcos is saying, actually, I am from Brazil and I've lived in London a long time ago. Thank you for mentioning my YouTube blog. I appreciate that, Fernanda. Yeah, you are welcome, Marcos. So I got the right name, Matemática e Inglês, math and English. Very good. Tina, I would like to ask you, why are you here? You are here because you're a teacher. You are a teacher, yes? And thank God you are a woman.
What an existential question. Why am I here?
Completely, yes. It's very close to actually practice you do. And I'm wearing my, we call this
Vila.
Vila, very good English.
Vila.
Tina speaks Spanish as well. And Vila is the football team from my hometown. My grandfather he was the founder of this, and
cool.
It has the same colors of Liverpool, I guess. I'm not sure. Anyway, so
red and white's pretty popular in football, though.
Yeah. And I was okay. I will wear this because, of course, I like football. It's a very Brazilian stuff. But we are here to, that's why we have this good music going around. We are here to talk about yoga. Tina is a yoga teacher. Tina, please tell us more about your practice. So why did you decide to become a yoga teacher? How was this?
Well, this was a very interesting journey, actually, because I have been practicing yoga for a long time. And I had, gone to yoga studios and taken classes and for years and years and years. And then a few years ago, I decided for myself that I wanted to explore a little more, I suppose, more of the philosophical, spiritual side of yoga. So I started doing some more intense training and going deeper into the practice. And at around this time, I had a visitor from Palestine, and she was a woman who works in a refugee camp in Palestine, and she was in the process of trying to establish a women's health group in the refugee camp. And one of the ideas that she had was to teach yoga as a way of supporting women in the camp to manage very high levels of stress and anxiety, because women in Palestine do I suppose take on the burden of apartheid in sometimes very silent ways. A lot of the men would be in prison or would have died in the struggle, and so women have to, kind of carry their grief, but at the same time, outwardly, they have to show strength and accept that their sons or husbands or fathers, that whatever, have been martyred, or that they're, in prison for the cause. In Israel, they don't support the prisoners, so the families have to feed them and make sure that they have everything that they need. So the women have to take on this burden, as well as, immediately becoming the main breadwinner, as well as dealing with everything else that goes with the conditions that the Palestinians live in under apartheid. So anyway, this woman came, and as it happened, I was due to go to Palestine that following summer, and I was going to a yoga class, and she said, "Oh, you're doing yoga?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm, training a little bit and going deeper, and so I need, I need to be there on time." And she goes, "Oh, do you think that you could teach yoga when you come to Palestine?" And I was like, "Really?" So she explained the whole project to me, and I thought, okay, well, I haven't finished my training yet, so let me just, So anyway, I chatted to my yoga teacher, and she was like, "No problem, you'll be great." So that's what happened. I started preparing straight away, and I was in Palestine for a few weeks, and for the time that I was there, we had a program worked out where I worked in the summer camp, and I taught yoga to the children. And then I also we set up a special women's yoga course, for a set number of weeks. And the idea was as an introduction. And while I was there, I found another yoga teacher then who would take over from me when I left. So she was introduced to the camp and introduced to the women. And that really, I think what really opened my eyes about that experience was I saw, obviously at first hand, I stayed in the refugee camp, in the Aida camp in Bethlehem, in the West Bank, and I saw and experienced firsthand the conditions and the level of oppression that Palestinians live under every day. And it was interesting because the community centre that we were teaching the yoga in was in the middle of the gate to the camp, and a gate to the behind the wall to an Israeli military base. So the community centre, and this is maybe 200 meters between these two gates, 300 meters at the most, and the community centre right in the middle. So I mean, one day I joked by the end of the time that yoga was really dangerous, because so often when we came out of the community centre at the end of a class, because we had the room closed and you couldn't hear anything, it was soundproofed. When we opened the room and came out, we discovered that the Israelis were shooting at the Palestinians at the gate of the camp, and there had been one day they kidnapped a boy, the soldiers kidnapped a boy, and so we had to stay in until they stopped, the fighting stopped. And I witnessed this several times when I was there. So and then also seeing the conditions in the camp, and went to visit a few different places in the West Bank. So seeing the conditions that they live under, but then at the same time having this incredible experience of teaching women and children techniques to manage stress, and seeing the incredible positive difference that it made to them in just a number of weeks, really opened my eyes to the gift that is yoga, and teaching it is, is almost like a precious duty, and that's the kind of teaching that I do. I don't really want to teach much in a yoga studio, or as we were talking before, like, just yoga just for body conditioning and fitness. For me, what's really important about teaching yoga is that it's supporting people in their lives. And helping them to manage their stress, and to learn very simple techniques that work for them, and I suppose helping people to just journey back to themselves. And that's really what brought me and that to yoga, that experience in Palestine, and I guess that's what's keeping me there, is the experiences I've had of teaching since then, which have been very much rooted in that commitment, that it's to reach out to people who need that kind of support for whatever reason.
That's wonderful experience. I didn't know that. So
yeah, it was incredible.
I have two questions here. First of all, Marcos is saying, this is a nice t-shirt. You sport a football team. Yes, I do sport because it's from my family. Sorry. And the name is Vila. Vila is from Nova Lima, Brazil. Okay, Minas Gerais. So I don't know what question I will ask first, Marcos, because they are not connected to each other, but kind of they are. Okay. The first question, can I ask you something related to the people behavior nowadays? Are they looking after themselves carefully? How about the taxes? Are they being subsidized? Subsidized. Wow. Subsidized. Thanks. So I think Tina can give you this answer as well. I am not leaving the house. I guess, and I hope people are really looking after themselves. Related to taxes, I don't see many differences. Is there any change, Tina, related to taxes at the moment? Are you aware?
Well, I know that what's happening in Ireland is that the government has two programs at the moment. One is to give people who have lost their jobs because of the pandemic are getting a weekly payment from the government directly, which is more than the payment if they became unemployed under normal circumstances. They're getting €350 a week compared to about 280, depending if they have children, they might get more. So if so they're getting €350 a week if they've lost their jobs. For people who have kept their jobs, but they're obviously just not going to work at the moment, the government is giving is subsidizing the employers. It's called like the wage subsidy scheme, and the employer is paying the employee, I think it's 70% of their wages. So some people are getting quite a bit less than what they would normally get. Normally, and also some people are getting less than what they would have gotten if they lost their jobs. It's a strange situation. So there is a big subsidy at the moment, and actually it's the big political question here at the moment, when we're starting to come out of the lockdown next week, actually next Monday, and people are wondering whether it's actually safe to go back to work. And if people feel it isn't, will the government, and they've just announced in the last few days that they will continue the scheme, but we don't know yet if it's going to continue as it is and people will receive the same money, or whether they will change it. Is it going to continue for 1 month, 2 months? We don't know. But this is what's being subsidized at the moment. So I hope that answers your question, Marcos. And then the first question, are people looking after themselves? I do think, I mean, there are obviously a lot of people that are finding it very, very difficult. But I think on the whole, my experience is that people are really doing their very best to make the most of a difficult situation. There's been, incredible solidarity, incredible activities and actions within communities of support and reaching out to others, and that's been really nice to see, really encouraging and heartwarming to see that, the outpouring of humanity and love and creativity. It's just been incredible.
Yeah.
But the question of whether people look after themselves well generally, I think the answer to that is probably no. And the reason is not because people don't want to look after themselves, but I think it's because one of the things that I have really noticed in the pandemic is how, like, I'm still really busy in work, but my life has slowed down an awful lot. You know, I'm not running around as much. You know, there's a lot of talk of people reevaluating what's important, material versus non-material, and I think that under the circumstances that we lived in, you know, normal times, whatever they were, there's a huge amount of pressure and stress. People live incredibly busy lives. They have to commute very far, you know, very, very long distances. They have to pay huge amount of money for crash, for housing, for, like, there's such a level of pressure and stress in day-to-day life. And I would really like to see coming out of this that we hold on to the good parts of the pandemic, which is, you know, realizing that we can't really continue at that pace of living, and because that pace of living just doesn't give people the time to look after themselves, whether it's to eat well, to exercise, to take some time for meditation. I was doing some meditation the other day with a Buddhist, actually, and he's doing an online course in meditation. And one of the things that he said was, for people who are beginning meditation, he was recommending that they meditate for 20 minutes every day. And he said, if you can't find 20 minutes to do meditation, well, then he said, then you need to look at your life. Buddha said, if you can't find 20 minutes for meditation in your day, you need to find 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly it. You know, if you're living a life where you can't find 20 minutes in a day for yourself, then you need to find 2 hours. You need to, you know, you need to get back 2 hours of your life for you. And that's the kind, you know, that's one of the things I'd like to see us kind of working towards, is having real discussions about quality of life.
Yes, actually, the time I don't feel the pressure. Some of my friends, they are very, very anxious. Like, I would like to say hi to Ivan. Hi, Ivan. How are you? Maria Sylvia, Sonia Sartori, welcome. But, well, sometimes some of my friends, how are you coping? I'm okay. I'm not, like, I am okay. Of course, I am concerned of my people. Brazil is crazy, you know, it's not safe at all. It's tough, it's difficult, it's painful, but I am glad for the moment, and because I'm safe and I know my family is safe as well. So how yoga can help, Tina? And plus, answering this question, Marcus is asking another question. How about having a yoga class on the other side of the screen? I do believe that you are familiar to technology as well, aren't you? Yes,
absolutely. Well, I am teaching a group at the moment on Zoom, and one of the things that I've noticed, and you know, it's a group of people that I know personally through music mostly, and also a little bit through politics and friends as well. They're all friends now, but I think that we started the group just as a way of, you know, doing yoga together because of the pandemic, and doing it together on Zoom. And it actually started out, I got the idea because another colleague of mine is a frontline mental health worker, and he was, like, having a really difficult time in you know, his clients that he works with, adjusting to this very sudden change, which they weren't coping very well with. So I offered him a yoga class on Zoom just to help him to kind of, you know, to chill out, you know, to get some downtime, and he really loved it, and he really benefited from it. So I thought, okay, I'll reach out to a few people I know who are, you know, feeling a little, whoa, and I did that, and there's now 9 people in the group, and we meet 2 or 3 times a week on Zoom. And one of the things that I've noticed is that what they get from this yoga in this time is to help them feel really, like, grounded, and to come back to themselves, and to feel really grounded, because at the moment, with all of the uncertainty that's out there, even I would agree with you. I actually feel okay. I you know, I'm working from home. I have a beautiful garden, so, you know, the weekends and the evenings I have the opportunity to go out there and do lots of work. It's been beautiful weather. I'm quite happy in my own company. I'm not, suffering terribly. And if I do need to go for a socially distanced walk with a friend, I do. Everything's fine. But at the same time, we're all living with this uncertainty about what the future looks like, and also with the fact that there is a virus out there that we have to avoid becoming sick. Even those of us who are super healthy, we think we're super healthy. Nobody knows how this virus is going to impact on individuals who get it. So this idea in the beginning that it was the most vulnerable, no, everybody is at risk with this virus. So even those of us who are feeling quite centered and, okay in all of this, we're still living in a time of great uncertainty and great precarity because of the virus. So people need to feel more and more grounded, so yoga's brilliant for this. Yoga's really good at just, something as simple as standing, not even doing anything. The least effort required is to stand with your feet hip distance apart and your feet pointing forward, your hands just down by your side, and just close your eyes and just focus on how your feet feel on the ground. And then, work that connection to the ground up your body all the way to the top of your head. And just every time you breathe out, just letting your whole body feel more connected to the ground. Just doing that. We call that mountain pose, by the way, in yoga. Just doing mountain pose, where you're really doing nothing, is possibly, at the moment, one of the most important yoga poses that people can do, because it's that sense of, people need to feel that solidity, that certainty that the ground is always there to hold us. Despite all of the circumstances that have changed and all of the uncertainty, that the earth is still here. The planet will still provide for us, can provide for us. And, if we all work together, we'll get through this. But at the end of the day, the certainty that we have is that we're here, that the earth is here, that she will continue to hold us, continue to provide for us. And we need to feel that level of certainty at the moment.
This is so nice, because I love you mentioned. I was going to ask, how long does it take for a new, okay, I'm having a problem now, and I know people are having problems, of course, life moves on and problems are there, and the problem is not the problem. The problem is how you react to a problem.
Yeah.
So can you, of course, you just told the story of this carer who benefit from the practice, and this is amazing, but how long do you feel your experience for someone starts to really feel the benefits of yoga?
After the first class.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever do something and you go, oh, that was really relaxing? You might have a nice bath, or you might go for a walk with a friend to the beach, or you might go to a music gig, or whatever it is that you like to do to relax. And you might say to yourself afterwards, or you might have a big long sleep in, on a Sunday morning, and then you wake up and you go, oh, that was so nice and relaxing, or that was a nice thing to do, and I feel so nice after it. Yoga's the same. You come to one class, one practice, and you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better. So you can, and this is why I think in Palestine it had such a great impact, because the women felt. I mean, I remember the very first class, and it was very interesting actually, because I did all my classes through a translator, because not all of the women spoke English. So the very first class I did. I start and finish all my classes with a sort of a guided meditation, sometimes shorter or longer than others. But in the beginning, it's mostly like a scan of the body, just to kind of bring people into the practice, and also to check, where your body is. Because if you don't have loads of energy and you're feeling a little bit tired, that's okay. Take the class slower. Don't push yourself. It's not a competition. That's why it's not a sport. It's well, for lots of reasons. But anyway, so I started the class, and I was inviting the women to as they were breathing in and out, to start noticing where they could feel stress in their bodies as they were, breathing more slowly, more deeply, starting to notice, going around the body, where's the stress. And I asked them to imagine, when they found some stress in their body, that the next time that they breathed in, to send the breath there, and to imagine that this stress was like a big stone, and when they breathed out, like a big round soft pebble, like when they breathed out, that they were imagining that the stone was just falling out of their bodies and into the ground.
Wow.
And then that was the beginning of the class. And then at the end of the class, we did some guided meditation, going back to these spaces and replacing the stones and the heaviness of the stress with some light. And at the very end of the class, one of the women came up to me and she said, I have a question. How did you know that I had so many stones in my body? And I was like, and she looked so, she said to me, I'm so relaxed now. And I just let them all, I feel light, I've just let everything go. And she came to every single class, by the way, for the few weeks. And it was incredible, because I could see in her straight away, one, and I had practiced some teaching before I went to Palestine. But this was really my first, class that I was teaching
by yourself.
By myself. And to have that, like visualization of the immediate benefit, was really, really powerful, and I've never had like, and I taught then when I came back, that was 3 years ago, and I've been teaching ever since. And like, I've never had anybody not say to me that they got something from the class, So to answer your question in a very long way, the advantages and the benefits are instant. I mean, even just that gift of giving yourself the time for you to take some time to go to a yoga class, you're already benefiting before you even get on the mat.
Yes, because you are doing something for yourself. It's you there. It's you. It's just you, your body, and your breath and the air. I have someone. Solange is here, and Solange, please send your questions. Solange is a practice of meditation, and she's living in Kabampa. Do you know that center? I don't know how to say the name.
No.
Anyway, we have one here, big one in Dublin, and she's Buddhist. If you cannot ask in English, ask in Portuguese, Solange. I translate for you. I translate for you. Do you believe that yoga is a sport? Do you believe? No, please. Do you think is any difference of seeing yoga as a sport or rather than a philosophy? What's the difference?
Well, yoga can be a sport in the sense that there are people who use yoga purely for the physical fitness and the benefits and the advantages of toning and stretching and all that, and that's fantastic. Like, I'm never going to criticize anybody for looking after themselves. I mean, that's fantastic. But that's great, and I think in some ways in the West, there was a period when yoga really became just about that. But for me, yoga is more about a way of living that helps us and supports us to live in the heart. And to be 100% connected with ourselves. So, in yoga, we practice principles, for example, of not causing any harm. And this principle has to apply to, all parts of our life. So you don't cause harm to others, you don't cause harm to yourself. That can apply to, you don't cause harm to yourself by eating all of the wrong foods. You don't cause harm to yourself by making sure that you get enough rest. You don't cause harm to yourself by staying in relationships that are harmful to you. So when we work through all of the, when you deepen your practice to really practice yoga, you're looking at all of these principles of life and of living and of being, and you're applying them to yourself, to your yoga practice. So, for example, you don't cause harm to yourself by pushing yourself in your practice if you're feeling tired. That's not good for your body. You don't have to do the postures, the most demanding ones every day. Some days my practice is just a very gentle flow, and I just turn and I breathe and I just move. I don't, because I'm listening to my body, I'm not causing myself harm. And when we live by these principles, we come closer to ourselves, and it helps us to, well, it helps me certainly to live more brightly. I feel I cope better with, since I've really come to this type of the philosophical, spiritual side of yoga, I feel I have a better outlook on life. I feel more content. I cope better with stress. It's not to say I don't have my...
We all have. We're still human.
I would be causing myself harm if I lived in that level of delusion.
Yeah.
But that's, that's really what yoga is. It's a journey back into the heart. Yeah. And the philosophy is there to help and guide us on that journey. So that when you teach yoga, I mean, you don't teach the spiritual philosophical side of it really in the classes that people would consider, a yoga class, but it comes into it because like the example I was giving about the group that we're practicing together at the moment, I got that sense that there was a real need to feel grounded. This is because you're listening and you're checking in and you're establishing a relationship, and then you're understanding. So the practices that we do, the physical practice as well as the meditations would connect to this, and so through this you're giving a sort of you're helping people to journey to their hearts, so it's part of it. But that's why I wouldn't necessarily call it a sport, because it's not really, I mean, the whole point of the physical aspects of yoga is because to be truly comfortable and be able to really comfortably sit in the heart, we can't have any disturbances that are triggered by the mind, the emotions, or any physical discomfort in the body.
Yeah.
So like to meditate, if you have a distraction because you've got some sort of physical pain or emotional pain, or your thoughts are racing, we're constantly distracted. So to be able to truly sit in the heart, and that's why the physical postures are intended to help keep the body in good condition, so that we don't feel discomfort in the body.
Yeah.
But they're not the objective of yoga. The objective of yoga is to be able to live in your heart.
That is a very good question, and it's connected to exactly what you were saying. So Marcus, very nice to have you here tonight, because you are asking good questions. I've heard that in Ireland the people are really fond of drinking beer. Sorry. In your opinion, beer and yoga work well together? Please don't take it as mad as it sounds. Yeah, so an Irish woman answering this question, an Irish teacher, Irish woman, or so please, Tina.
It's a very interesting question. I mean, my first reaction is that some yoga postures, it's very easy to hold your beer, but other yoga postures, it's impossible. So we won't try. Does yoga and beer work well together? Well, actually, I'll tell you a funny story about how I first came across meditation. I was living in Denmark as a student, and as students do, and we had a very big party on a Saturday night, and it went long into the night. And I had seen a poster in Danish, but I thought I understood because it had the word yoga in it, so I thought it was a yoga class. And so I signed up, said, yep, definitely I want to go to that yoga class. And I turned up anyway on the Sunday in a very, very hungover state, and went into the room, and it turns out that it was a meditation. And the word yoga had been in reference to a yogi, as opposed to that we were going to be doing any yoga. So I spent 2 hours in a meditation group. When I finished the meditation, and they were very kind. They facilitated me in English, and I came out 2 hours later, and I had no hangover, and I felt like I could run a marathon. And I was really, really surprised at how well I felt. So that so you could say that beer kind of introduced me to meditation, and then eventually into yoga as well. So that's a good connection. And I suppose in the yoga philosophy, we would say that, at the end of the day, we all have to live our best lives. And if we live a life that makes us happy And as part of that life, you know, drinking a few beers with your friends is what makes you happy, then that fits into the world of yoga. What doesn't fit into the world of yoga is if we're using beer as a way of hiding from ourselves, or avoiding going to our heart because it's too painful. Then you know, then you need yoga more than you need beer. But if it's not a problem, then it's not a problem. Yoga and beer go great together.
Yeah. Yeah, I stopped drinking 2 years ago almost, and I do meditate twice per day, and I practice yoga as well. So I don't know, it's natural. It's not no pressure, you know, you just do
Yeah.
whatever you feels good. So
Yeah.
that's the thing, basically. No, it's so yes. I have another questions for you, not related to yoga. Yes, of course, related to teaching, fine. Related to yoga, absolutely, but not related to teaching. Please, can you tell us, explain to people, because they might come back to this video another time. What do you do? What's your regular work? What's your job? You are a teacher and you are doing other stuff.
Yeah, but see, yeah, because the yoga teaching isn't really a job in that I've never accepted payment
Uh-huh.
for teaching yoga, and that's just my choice, and I don't have to because I have a job,
Uh-huh.
a very full-time job. I am a political and community activist,
Uh-huh.
and I also have been elected twice now to the municipal government in the city of Dublin, in the capital city. So I am a sort of a politician, but I don't like to use the word politician because when people hear the word politician, they just think of the corruption and the power grab, and that's not. I'm a socialist, and I'm involved in politics because I want to change the current system that forces an awful lot of people into terrible forms of oppression, and I guess I want to change the world. So I see myself more as an activist, and using the platform of being an elected representative as a way of advancing the struggle for a type of society where everybody can realize their full potential.
Mm-hmm. And what's the benefit of being a yogi and doing the job you do, actually?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's, you know, it reminds me all the time to, because sometimes when you're involved in this kind of politics and activism, you know, you can feed off, or you can live in a sort of constant type of confrontation, you know. You're always protesting, you're challenging, you're campaigning against, usually, you know, a government policy. And, you know, sometimes you get to campaign for things as well. Like we had a great campaign a few years ago where we campaigned for a public park in the city, the part of the city that I live in. And that was great because we were campaigning for something, but not, you know, usually in this type of activism. So you can live constantly in that sort of, you know, almost a little bit aggressive, confrontational state of mind. And for me, the yoga for me is very important balance to that, because it reminds me to come back to the heart, and to try, even in politics, to think and feel and live and decide and work from the heart, because at the end of the day, what I'm doing is for people and for humanity. And so for me, it's important to stay connected in that way, and to try and live here rather than to be living in my, you know, what was once a
Different.
very crazy, you know, let's smash everything up kind of head. So that's, for me, that's the balance. You know, it's a really nice balance, and it's also to come to bring into, you know, into politics, you know, because there's a lot of the principles of yoga would be very similar to the principles of community development. And before I got involved very heavily in politics, I was a community worker working in a very, very disadvantaged community. A lot of drugs problems and employment problems, and a lot of state neglect, basically. Communities like you have a lot of in Brazil as well. And in community development, you know, we work off a a set of principles that are very similar in some ways to the principles that we work from in yoga. So it's very person-centered and very, the needs of the individual. So I like to be able to kind of bring that a little bit into politics, and coming at more from a developmental approach,
Yeah, that's wonderful. Marcus is saying, my wife and I will open a yoga pub so that no more hangovers.
So there are no more what?
Hangovers.
Oh, more
Hangovers, yeah.
That'll be
Sergio.
you're going to have a lot of success there, Marcos.
Oh, definitely, especially here, yeah. Yeah, Sergio is saying, I need a SEP. No, you don't. That we will progress, and eventually, shortly, we'll have the captions. Anyway, so Roy Willoughby is watching.
Great. Hi, Roy.
Yeah, so I didn't mention why Roy wasn't here. He had some family loss this weekend, and he is his mother-in-law. So I have, please, Roy, I'm sorry, it's sad, but
it's very sad news.
Yeah, the moment is just very sad for many.
Send our sympathies.
Yes, totally, yes. Yes, so Marcos is asking a question to both of us. Would you be able to skydiving? Have you already tried? No, I didn't. No, I am not. What about you, Tina?
No, thank you. In Venezuela, I tried abseiling down waterfalls. And I did that because we were there and there was no other way down. And I got to the bottom and I went, from now on, my feet are staying on the ground.
Sorry, not for me. No, yes, Roy saying thank you, obrigado. Tina, would you come back to us another day with Roy here? Because I'm pretty sure that he would love having you here.
Yeah, that would be great. No
it's
problem.
Always man everywhere and never a woman. And he's saying obrigado, right? It's a legend. I really, really like him, and he's kind to students. So we have this soundtrack playing since the beginning. This is a 20-hour 7 healing meditation, sleep, chakra, yoga, Tibetan meditation. Tibet. How do I say this? Tibetan,
yeah.
Tibetan. And this music is there. If you go to YouTube channel, if you are really into, after all this good experience that Tina is sharing, you will find many channels, many places where you can discover yoga, practice yoga, and bring some peace. Would you recommend, Tina, any of them? There are a lot, but would you like one in particular?
To be honest with you, there's so many out there that I suppose people need to find something that's in their language, that suits their whether it's a yoga class or the meditation. I mean, if you just do a search in Google or YouTube, anyway, the most popular ones will automatically come up. So that's a good way of sorting them out. Yeah. But I suppose I could recommend. I mean, I suppose in most countries there are Buddhist centers. So maybe if there is a Buddhist center in your country, that will be in your language. I know the Dublin Buddhist Center has some really nice offerings on their website as well. And I think at the moment as well, because of the times that we're living in, most places are offering things more available on the internet than they normally would be. So, if there was ever a time to look for something on the internet, it's now, And worst case scenario, I guess, if you can't find anything that suits you, you could just, switch everything, your phone, the television, the music, switch everything off and just find a comfortable chair and just sit in it and close your eyes and count 100 times watching your breath and you're meditating. Good enough.
Wonderful. I would ask you to come and just to finish this, to just tell people how can you just did. So yes, once you find a calm place, a quiet place, and you find yourself there, just it's a meeting with yourself, I would say. Just
exactly.
meet yourself, yeah. And it's like good, yeah.
Yeah.
Tina, thank you ever so much for being
No
here
problem.
tonight. You know that I'm busy here. I am also a carer. And the lady is there. I need to go to her.
Yeah, of course.
I think people just heard I was going and coming back. I didn't anyway, but it's just the message is here, you know, the message is here, and this is amazing. And women power, and that's
absolutely.
it.
And thank you so much for having me on. And I love that you're doing this for students. You know, it's a great way to kind of keep the conversations going and to stay connected. And fair play to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I shall see you back here soon, hopefully with Roy, and best wishes to everybody who has been watching.
Please, Tina, we will like find a way. Roy is saying até terça-feira. See you Tuesday. No, maybe not Tuesday, but she's definitely coming back, Roy.
I'll definitely be back.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Guys, thank you very much. If you like this video, please share. Tell your friends. Is there any words that you didn't understand, please write them down and send us a message. We can answer you, and yes, we'll be back next Tuesday with somebody else practicing English during this tough time. God bless you all. Tina, thank you very much, my friends. God bless.
Namaste. Stay safe.
You too. Namaste. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. See you.